How to Not Surprise Someone by Daily Dose of Internet.
Hello everyone, this is your Daily Dose of Internet.
Oh no.
Who knew that working
I think that's an incredibly reasonable reaction to have, though. I think that specifically, you have, because surprises, right? So naturally you have the surprise factor, but suddenly you have something that's effectively just burning and flashing in your face. And that definitely leads to a lot of like danger, 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 that kind of mentality in your brain. And I mean, you can train that. I mean, for example, what is a firearm, in execution of it, say as at a range, right? Then just mitigating explosions that go off near your face, right? Eventually you start to get used to it. You start to get conditioned to that. And suddenly you're like, 9mm is not that bad. 7.62 is not that bad. 308's not that bad. Okay, 50 BMG Ralphus, still pretty loud. But I mean, you can kind of condition yourself to kind of deal with that. So unless, you have something similar that you deal with, maybe you work at a factory, maybe you work with loud machines all day, maybe you work at a plant with a bunch of heat explosions going, maybe you work in an oven room, right, at a factory, right? Number of things that could condition you for that. But I would argue for your average person that a surprise factor like that, while very memeable, is not necessarily the outlandish response. Like that's kind of the normal response.
at a brewery could be so dangerous?
100%. That's under pressure. That's under pressure, too. Like, that's why you have the Family Guy meme of Peter trying to drink from the fire hose, and then it leads to shenanigans. Like, contents, as it turns out, under pressure are generally not sympathetic to subscribing to healthcare. It's really not. Like, oh my god. Like, and that's also, I mean, I'm sure that the loss is probably, minimal, and I'm sure there's probably safeguards and stuff that were in place that either didn't happen. And that's the thing, maybe it's not necessarily your fault, because sometimes there are people that you work with, and I, encourage your stories down below as long as it doesn't violate NDA or OPSEC, right? Where you work at a job and you know how a specific machine is supposed to run or how something is supposed to be done. And when I said, I'm not talking about like Karen, like, oh, you're supposed to organize you're supposed to organize the shelf this way, right? It's like, okay, like, but if there's like an actual like organization to it, like if there's an actual like you can scan it and this is where they're supposed to be, okay. But if it's just some sort of like office decor, okay, maybe not, right? I'm talking about you run a giant machine at a factory. You are running, you're running around some hazardous material, right? That kind of thing. And hazardous material is supposed to be locked up. They're supposed to be like at a hospital, right? Or any sort of medical facility, how you get your biohazard bins and stuff like that. I'm sure there's procedures for that. I myself am not privy to that. Actually, I have a nurse that I can go ask. We'll go ask them. But like, if that's not respected, you got a needle poking out, right? Okay, you can't really control if other people are going to do that. You can't really control if you're working on a $400,000 piece of machinery and your apprentice just says, oh, well, I know better. I don't have to follow standard procedure. And they just, they end up hurting themselves because they invalidated every single check you're supposed to do. And suddenly they get their hand crushed and they're just like, why did this happen, right? Sometimes you really can't control accidents like that because other people exist. It could be a number of things. I'm very curious if you happen to know what happened with that bat. That's right. That goes in the puzzle piece hole. Don't. Yeah, there's the table flip. I couldn't do that to somebody. Like, I mean, in the TCG sphere, right? That's like if I was playing Magic the Gathering and I got turn 4, I got power plant, mine, and 2 towers out, drop Ulamog, and the person just flips the table, right? It's just disrespectful, I mean, of people's time at minimum, and depending on what you're doing, right? Imagine if you had something like, not that you technically would be playing with this, imagine if you had Black Lotus or one of the Power 9 on the table, right? And somebody just table flipped. Would you not be upset? I had a buddy who was at I think it was a Pokemon tournament, actually, and he had Hatsune Miku mat, because dude loves Miku. And somebody just like had coffee next to him, which you're technically not supposed to do in a game shop setting. You're not supposed to have food, beverages. At minimum, it's just rude, right? Imagine when you're playing and somebody's eating a Subway sandwich across from you while you're trying to do their turn, or they're trying to do their turn and they just take a bite of the sandwich, right? Just kind of rude. You're disengaging, especially if in like Yu-Gi-Oh, you're on a timer. With how controversial modern timer restrictions have been on games because you can run it out in certain ways. But no, I couldn't do that to somebody. Not only because it's rude, but because that not necessarily could have monetary value to someone, could have sentimental value to someone. They spent how long doing a fairly uniform puzzle? Like it was a really just all blue, right? It took them a while to do that. And I get it, it's the haha funnies. It's just, to me, it comes across as just rude. I personally would never do it. I can appreciate the kind of fun factor, especially if this was staged or if they're like, hey, let's do this. But if this was done maliciously, it's just like, yeah.
There's the funny off button on this cat.
Oh no. I don't think I can go into why the cat doing that. Because there's any veterinarians in chat or anyone that knows, feel free to leave in the comments why the cat be acting that way. Because I don't think I can discuss that. I don't know. YouTube and manual reviews have been wild. So I'm trying to be on my best behavior, best P's and Q's, if you will. And yeah, that's that is an interaction.
Everything's fine.
Nice.
Everything's fine. Don't worry about it.
Oh no.
Everything's fine. I wouldn't worry. Everything's fine. Everything's okay.
Don't be suspicious. Don't be suspicious. Don't be suspicious. Don't be suspicious. That's the one thing that comes to mind. Like, maybe it could have also been unloaded. Like, it's entirely possible, right? You see a school bus drive around, right? It doesn't necessarily have any passengers or kids in it, right? It could just be driving around. It could be, getting ready to pick them up, or it could be that there was no school. There could be a number of factors. It's not abnormal, at least where I'm at, just see a school bus driving around, right? They got to keep busy somehow, and, it's not necessarily that they have people in them. That being said, I don't necessarily know. I think that that's interesting, and because of the power of social media, that's actually why, part of the reason why I don't actually post my face is because I was doing TikToks on another account, and I had my actual face, and I kid you not, within like 2 days, I got pulled into the manager's office, the floor manager's office. Hey, Kip, so I was on TikTok, and I'm like, oh no. And I was like, is that Kip? I'm like, really? And I literally had the executive of HR be like, well, you're not breaking any sort of rules or anything with this. I'm like, yeah, it's almost like I know how the internet works. It's almost like I know not how to invalidate an NDA. It's almost like I know not to say inside information that's going to get me in trouble. So the headache reason on that is just because posting my actual face can get you in a lot of trouble, especially just if you got a business that doesn't quite understand social media, which that one was problematic because that was a very tech heavy job. Like there were many applications and programs we had to do on intranets and the internet. So that was a little concerning itself. But that's the thing, you can't control the algorithm. Yeah. So how that's relevant to this is is when the internet can triangulate where a stone is from the shadows of bushes in an image. That's going to get back to some department. Some department's going to know exactly what that is. And if they're, at the very least, it could look negligent on them. They could launch an internal investigation. They could get someone or multiple people fired. And that's the problem with social media. You can run into interactions like that. And at face value, we look at this, right? Like we look at War Thunder interactions all the time. 0 days since War Thunder had a classified document leak, right? But to me, when I look at that, who's getting fired today? Who's getting, not necessarily even court-martialed, who's getting in trouble today? What internal investigations are going to have to happen? Who's going to absolutely just get raked over the coals? And it could be, we all laugh at it. A lot of people laugh at it, but you don't see the side of it where people genuinely get in trouble and potentially even lose their livelihood. And that's not to even say up to potentially, depending on the severity of it, dishonorable discharge, which is a huge thing. So just things to keep in mind with things like this, where it could be different than at face value, kind of like the whole gym situation where people will insert a narrative. Oh, he's so feral. Oh, he's staring at me. Dude, homeboy's just probably zoinking out at that wall right there. Like looking at he's staring at the wall or you're doing things in such an awkward capacity, he just kind of shakes his head, right? And I'm not saying there are absolutely creeps at the gym across the gender spectrum. What I'm trying to showcase is that how easy it is to propose a narrative or insert your own narrative, and the internet is very guilty until proven innocent, and even then, depending on the allegations made, who makes the allegations, it could be over for that creator, and you could forever be, linked to whatever that narrative was, despite you doing your best to not, which is problematic in itself and a problem with the sphere. So things to just keep in mind, that you post on social media, it's out there. And especially if it's something like that, the job, and people can insert their own narratives, or it blows up in some capacity, because it could be benign. It could just be that, hey, there was no one there, and this was actually just kind of sitting there waiting for the next job or waiting for the next task. But now we've inserted the narrative of don't be suspicious, and then they'll go back to some state department and they'll launch an internal investigation. Someone gets there's a chain effect that happens behind the scenes with this kind of thing.
So are trucks made of paper, or is this sign really, really strong?
That's impressive, actually. He's going for it.
Ooh, babe, do not get out this car. Do not get out this car. He is finna leave.
Wow. Who pays for that damage? That's got to be the company insurance if that's a company vehicle, right? Like, that's got to pay out for that. But your premium is about to go up. That's quite impressive and quite distressing at the same time, to understand that we're shipping sometimes hazardous material in trucks that thin that McDonald's is kind of a skeleton key for. Like, it's kind of terrifying, but also kind of interesting and impressive at the same time. And in a situation like that, what do you do, right? From the driver's side of things, if you hear a clunk like that, what do you do? Maybe you get the third one in, right? Initial hit, second hit, third hit. Like, what do you do? Do you back up, especially in a drive-thru where someone maybe is right behind you? Or do you just kind of go forward, right? Like, there's a thought process that happens there. It's not necessarily that he's stupid. I mean, for not reading the clearance or kind of understanding that, there's potentially the aspect for some stupidity, some tomfoolery and shenanigans, if you will, here. But that's not necessarily a indicative factor in regards to someone's mental faculties, capacity, qualifications, etc. There's definitely going to be some questions there. Don't get me wrong. There's definitely going to be people that are they get a hold of that footage. Oh man, that person's toast, 100%. But what do you do in that situation, right? What do you do in a situation where you don't meet clearance? Do you just cause a traffic jam, or do you just go? But if you go, you cause property or vehicle damage. That's a very lose-lose situation to be in. Don't do it. What were you expecting? I don't know what she was expecting. Amazing.
This has to be the bravest dog I've ever seen.
Dog. Oh boy, he do. That do be a rock. No, it's a trash bag. It totally like threw me off for a minute because of the texture. But yeah, no. He'd do good. It's because it was moving. It was moving in the fashion that it did, just moving slightly. I wasn't sure what to make of it until thus grabbing it. And look what I have hunted. Ooh! At least it let him down.
The good news is that he wasn't hurt.
If you do get hurt in that capacity, I do think that's workman's comp, potentially. That is something that if you had to go to the hospital for or seek treatment for, paperwork gets filed and paperwork gets messy really, really quick. And that's the thing is like, if it's cold, some things don't even look icy and they can be icy. You can slip or you can slide. You can lose control of a vehicle, lose control of your footing, and just it's a chain reaction of one thing's into another. I love it. It's perfect. Nice.
What? You're gonna get rid of the doing?
Oh, it's so
For some
satisfying.
reason, this dog started glitching.
God, you.
It's probably at a place in the
She
store. He doesn't know
decided
what
to
to do
run
with it.
away because her mom made her clean her room.
Because I told her to clean your room? Okay, I'll see you later.
Bye. I'm gonna turn the light on for you. Okay, see you.
I think that that's a misconception with modern parenting, and I'm super glad I'm not a parent. But sometimes I feel like I get that parenting experience. Some of the contents I run across, like, it's not. I think people use this being like, "Oh, well, back in my day, we were told to clean our room, and we did it." Yeah, a lot of us did, a lot of us didn't. And I think that more comes down to a parenting thing because kids are just going to be unruly. Kids are literally from a startup OS having to be taught and learn the world around them. You don't have kids necessarily understanding how, say, high school classes work, right? You don't necessarily have a kid that age understanding that, well, you have first period, second period, third period, etc., right? These are learned behaviors, and that gets into this the concept of nature versus nurture. But that comes down to not even that they're being a bad parent. Sometimes kids are just unruly. Sometimes kids just don't want to listen. Sometimes kids just want to do their own thing or completely just blow things out of proportion. That's being a parent. That's dealing with kids, and it's funny in the moment. I feel there's a specific type of user that's going to use that as saying someone's a bad parent or saying that back in my day this never would have happened. It happened. Maybe not you specifically, but it definitely happened. And it's growing out of these. That's the goal, growing out of this. Now imagine if this was a 27-year-old, right, who got told, hey, you kind of need to pick up your 40 cans of Sprite in your room, and you're like, and you're just mounds of bags of DoorDash and stuff, right? And they throw a fit, right? Now, in a vacuum, that's bad. Obviously, there could be other things going on, depression, losing one's job, etc. Like, there's a number of things that could go along with that. But generally, that would be seen as an adult as an overreaction. And being an overreaction, that's kid stuff, right? Like we learn how to cope with this. We learn how to deal with this. We learn that there are consequences to our actions, consequences being good, bad, neutral, right? The consequences of not cleaning your room are getting told, hey, go clean your room. The consequences of you throwing a fit like this is people not taking you seriously as an adult. So just things to think about in regards to why people do things. The best question you can ever ask is why? Why does someone act this way? Why is someone doing this? Why is this considered inappropriate? Why is this considered an overreaction? Why is, as an adult, this not acceptable? What up, bro?
That is the end of this video. We hope you enjoyed.
Dude.
And I'll see you guys again very, very soon. Later.
His dinner got snaked by a raccoon. What an absolute legend. That was amazing. I absolutely enjoyed this. I'm trying to add a little more context, talk a little more during these. I do know that I haven't been super talkative on some of these, but I do enjoy Daily Dose of Internet, and I do enjoy having kind of these thought-provoking conversations. So let me know what you guys think about this. Let me know if you think that this was necessarily on base. Let me know if you think that, maybe I was wrong in some capacity. Let me know if you also have dealt with the parenting experience without having to be a parent, or you have to parent for somebody else's kid, not because they're going through stuff, because they just don't seem to know how to get a handle on their kids. Let me know, let me know some cool things. Let me know a cool fact. Let me know if you agree that the best question you can ever ask in life is why. Definitely go check out Daily Dose of Internet if you haven't. They put out amazing content, a lot of cool content fairly regularly, and they're just an overall super cool creator. Thank you, everyone. I'll see you all in the next one.